If you're dealing with a slow, sloppy bass drum foot that never seems to fully lock into the kick drum pattern that you're trying to play, then today's lesson is for you. Today I'm sharing with you the single exercise that literally forever changed my bass drum speed and control, and I'm teaching it to you so that your right foot will be forever transformed as well. Ignore your right foot problems and you'll stay stuck and frustrated. But take action on this and you'll be able to play whatever kick patterns come your way. You can do this. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that they can nail songs and ultimately sound awesome with a band. And hey, speaking of knowing what to practice, that's one of the biggest struggles that every beginner drummer faces. And sometimes even once you're beyond beginner, you're still facing this. So I want you to grab a free PDF e-guide I have, my free gift to you. This is the Know What to Practice 3-part practice guide for the busy drummer. If you just got 30 minutes a day, this guide shows you exactly what the most important things are you should be practicing. It divides up all of drumming into the 3 critical core areas. And if you're practicing a little bit of this, and this every day, you're going to grow consistently and you'll know that there's no holes in your playing. And so if you've been struggling with knowing what to practice, you feel like your practice sessions aren't productive, you're not having fun, things just aren't going well, and you're not where you thought you would be by now, then this is the guide for you. So go check it out. It's in the description. It's going to help you out a ton. It has been helping thousands of drummers, and you'll be no exception. So go grab that. On with today's lesson. Your right foot is slow, you feel like you lack control over it, and your kick drum patterns just feel sloppy. I know many of you can relate to this because many of you have told me this in surveys, if you're on my email list, that is. And many of my one-on-one students that I've worked with, coaching, and even in group coaching sessions have told me the same thing. And of course, I've been there. I remember this was back in spring of 2010. I was, let's see, this was close to senior, this is junior year of high school. I was in high school and I was taking drum lessons, and I remember showing up to my drum lesson this was a Saturday morning, and I had this particular exercise I was just struggling through. And it was a pretty quick kind of jazz thing, lots of kick notes. And so this was one of those exercises where I knew if I can conquer this exercise, I can play anything. That's how I felt. But I could not conquer this exercise. So I remember showing up to my drum lesson this Saturday morning back in spring of 2010 and just struggling through it. And it wasn't that I couldn't play it. It's just that it wasn't sounding good. It wasn't locking together. And I even remember in my head blaming the pedal. It was a DW 5000 pedal that I thought didn't feel right. This giant bass drum at the drum set where I was having my lesson, and it just felt weird. And so I just remember being like, this is just all weird. I'm going to blame the pedal for this, even though I knew this is my foot's fault. And so I remember my drum set teacher, great teacher. I'm forever thankful for all the things that he taught me and really imparted on me mindset-wise. He told me, go practice this another week, but take it really, really, really slow. And that was the pivotal turning point for me in my right foot bass drum speed and control. And what I did, I went home, I practiced this exercise really slowly, came back the next week, blazed through it, and nailed it. So you can probably guess this is what we're working on today. I'm going to share with you this exercise and what I did to really improve my foot speed, and I think it's going to do the same for you. And really, you can use my version of this classic Jim Chapin exercise for your own practice so that you're freeing your right foot for more speed, control, and coordination freedom. This particular exercise is from this book right here. It's called Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer by Jim Chapin. If you don't have the book, that's fine. If you want to buy it, you can. What we're doing today is I'm giving you a version of this exercise, basically my altered version of it, so that I'm not just copying what's here, because I'm going to give you my version free in a PDF printout, so you can download that PDF notation guide to go along with this lesson. If you want to go grab it right now, the link is in the description. I'll also put it on the screen. That way you can follow along. But even if you don't have the book, you can grab my notation of my version of the exercise. The point is that the point is not to play note for note what's in the book. The point is to play something like it and focus on what needs to be focused on to master this kind of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to dive into this. So depending on what level you're at, I just want to be honest with you, you may not work all the way up to this full exercise today or this week or even this month. This is really not a beginner exercise. This is an exercise for you if you've been, playing for a little while. Maybe you still consider yourself a beginner, but you can play basic rock grooves. You're just frustrated by a sloppy right foot that can't play fast enough. Then you're ready to dive into this. Now, having said that, this is also not that complicated and not that difficult. But we are doing, this is a jazz exercise. We're doing a jazz swing bebop kind of exercise here. And so if you're new to it, just be patient with yourself. Know that it takes some time to kind of get the feel for this, especially if you've never played any kind of swing before. But take my word for it, if you can learn this exercise, stick with this for the long haul, get this together slowly, stick with this for a few weeks, a few months, then this is going to reap dividends in your rock playing as well. And you'll be able to play any kind of rock kick pattern that comes your way, like quick stuff like that, or those sorts of things become easy when you can play things like this exercise. So hopefully I've talked it up enough. Let's dive into this. So really 3 steps. 3 steps to do this. We're going to start super simple. Step 1 is play basic swing time. If you've never done this before, that's why we have this as a step 1. Play basic swing time, which is our classic spang-a-lang. Ting, ting, ta, ting, ting, ta. Think triplets. It's a triplet sort of pattern. If you've never played it before, you'll get the hang of it. Try playing along with me. We want to then add left foot chick on 2 and 4 so that it sounds like this. So that is the fundamental step 1, but now we want to get a little crazy with our step 2. And what we want to do, this is where we're going to go as slow as we need to. We're going to go all the way down to 70 beats a minute. We're going to add in kick drum triplets underneath. So what we want to do is basically do this. So we've got goom, 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 triplets, full on 1 olet, 2 olet, 3 olet, 4 olet, going on with our right foot underneath this. 1 olet, 2 olet, 3 olet, 4. Just like that, locked in with this, also with this on 2 and 4. Now we're not actually to the exercise yet. This is why I kind of gave you my disclaimer that, hey, if you're brand new to this, be patient with this. We're taking it step by step. This might be where you need to focus before even diving into this exercise. So I'm going to put in my in-ears here, get the metronome going at exactly 70, and we're going to add in these kick triplets. Now the goal here is to go as slow as you need to go. That was the critical thing that I learned 14 years ago as a high schooler practicing this. The point was not to practice these notes or these rhythms or this exercise. The big thing, the big takeaway, and what caused me to finally have success at this exercise was the fact that I went incredibly slowly. I remember going down to, I think, 80 beats a minute in my practicing. It may have been even slower, so we're going to go 70, which is very slow. And what you'll find going 70 beats a minute is that you have to really focus on not rushing. So at 70 beats a minute, the quarter note is right here. So if we give it a triplet feel, bum, 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 bum. And what you might even want to do, depending on what metronome app you're using, if you can add the triplet subdivision to the metronome so that the metronome's going bum, 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 or but, bum, 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 that could be really helpful to you. That way you can lock in that right-hand pattern, because it does take some focus to play the right-hand pattern that slow, but it's critical that you be able to play this slow. Otherwise, how are you going to get your brain to digest all of this? If I leave you with anything that you remember from today's lesson, it is that you have to go really slow in order to build foot control, foot speed, coordination in general, all that good stuff. You have to go really, really slow. So that's where the patience comes in. So here we go at 70 beats a minute. First, I'm going to do a couple measures of just the ride and the hats, and then we'll bring in the kick drum triplets. Now, a side note here, this isn't critical to the exercise, but I'm not trying to play the kick really loudly. When we're playing jazz and bebop, we're not trying to play loudly down here. So you can play fairly softly, but notice that there's got to be beater motion. It has to be this smooth beater bouncing motion. So whether you're playing lightly like this, or you want to go heavier like this, there's always going to be that beater motion. There's no burying. We're not going to go. If you see that happening, stop. Don't do that. Make sure you've got a smooth beater bounce motion, because after all, we're not trying to go. That would be ridiculous, right? We've got to have motion, we've got to have smoothness, and the same thing applies to the bass drum. All right, so play that, get that to 70 beats a minute incredibly slowly. Be patient with yourself. If you've got to go even slower, and you've got to do like a measure on and a measure off and go like. And so on like that. If you've got to take breaks there in between, that's fine. Do whatever you got to do to get to that point. That is step 2. And depending on, if you're a beginner drummer, maybe that is the step to aim for this month. Just get to doing that, and that alone is going to help your right foot a ton, because you're teaching your right foot to play all these notes underneath this slow, sparse pattern up here. It's going to work wonders for your coordination and for your right foot precision, even if that is all you do. So if you can get to that point, give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself some grace, be patient. If that's all you can do this month, that is still a tremendous win. Now, once you can do that, if you're ready for our third step, let's actually dive into the full exercise. I'm going to put the notation on the screen for you. You can download the notation PDF. It's just one page. This is just a quick little 8-bar thing that is inspired by the exercise in this book, which is on page, I should have written this down, it's on page 22. Page 22, the exercise that's on 22 in Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer. If you want to buy the book, or if you have it, great. You don't have to. You can grab my PDF version, and this simplified version, shorter version too, is going to serve you really well, because the point is not which exercise you practice, it's how you practice it. So we want to get this to 110 beats a minute, maybe even 120. I'm going to play it for you at 110 so you can see, okay, here's how this is supposed to sound more in context when it's not incredibly slowly. And then I'm going to slow it down for you, and I'll play through it a couple times at 70 so you can begin learning it and play along with me. So here it goes at 110. This is what we want to get it to. So this is what we aim for, months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. Be patient with yourself, but here's the end goal, and we're going to slow it down. So this is 110 beats a minute. So that was looping through it twice. It kind of consists of 2 phrases, and so you can take this kind of a phrase at a time. It's like a 4-bar phrase and another 4-bar phrase, and I was looping it twice there, so that was a full 16 bars. But as you're learning this, you're going to want to take it measure by measure, beat by beat, really, really slowly. Here it goes now at 70 beats a minute. I'll play through it a couple times for you. It's 70, which is a tempo I want you to slow it down to really focus on that right foot and locking it in with the right hand. In a way, it's harder to play it at 70 than at 90. You might be at a point in your playing where you have some decent foot chops. You're like, you know what, I can play this at 90 or 100. But you might be in the same boat I was in high school, where I could do it at 100, but it wasn't locked in, it wasn't tight. And so really my problem was that I wasn't able to play it at the slower tempo. And so that might be you. Be able to play it really, really slow, because if you can't play it well slow, you can't play it well fast. You might be able to play it fast, but not well fast, and there's definitely a difference there. So here we go, 70 beats a minute. Feel free to play along with me as you put this together yourself, but be patient, take it measure by measure. Now, one more important tidbit, how to know when you're ready to increase the tempo. So don't bump the tempo up at all until you know things are locked together. And if that means recording yourself, making a video of yourself, so that you can look at yourself, listen to yourself, and be like, okay, that's sounding good at 70. It's locked together at 70. But if there's any clumsiness down here and right foot's like, it's rushing, it's not wanting to lock in, you're still just struggling with this relationship, don't let the tempo budge. This is where you have to be disciplined in your practicing, and you have to put your foot down and say, I'm going to make myself be patient with this. I want so badly to go faster, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it slow. That is a tremendous point of maturity in your practicing and your learning as a drummer. When you can be okay with the going slow and take pride in slow practice, take satisfaction in slow practice, and be like, you know what? I didn't go any faster today, but speed wasn't the goal. It was control and precision. And I got slightly more controlled after playing this for 30 minutes today at 70 beats a minute. So that is a win. And maybe next week I'll go a little faster, but today that's what I did, and that's a win. You got to have that mindset with this, otherwise you'll never make it. So once you get it together, feeling really good and tight at 70, okay, bump it up to 75, gradually inch your way up. Don't go any more than 5 BPM increments. If you want to go less than that, that's fine. But 80 is a good point to get to also. Once you get up to 90 or 100, it might actually start to feel easier because it's not so incredibly slow. And at that point, it's going to start feeling more and more effortless because of all the work you've put in to get it tight at that slow tempo. So here's what will happen when you practice this. Thinking forward a few weeks from now, a few months from now, depending on what level you're at. If you're a total beginner, give this a few months. If you've been playing for a while and you're just trying to fine-tune your bass drum, you might get big results in just a few weeks. But here's what's going to happen. Your bass drum foot will be tightly playing any kick drum pattern that comes your way. That's a big win. You won't have to think as hard when playing complex kick drum patterns. Think, songs like Walk This Way by Aerosmith, Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, any kind of like funk song that has like Rock With You, Michael Jackson, like songs that have that kind of groove, that'll be more effortless. Anything that's more busy, like you'll find that starting to implement things like that, like double kick stuff into your playing, isn't as difficult. And doing fills like that, you'll find that you're able to start implementing the right foot into things like that more easily just because, hey, it's tight, it's controlled, the strength is there. So an awesome win. You won't have to think as hard to do those sorts of things. And ultimately, you'll feel more comfortable and confident knowing that you can play what you want to play. Because a lot of times the weak point with so many drum set players is not the hands. They get the hands down, the hands can work, but the weak point is the feet. But when you get that right foot feeling good and you're confident and comfortable with everything your right foot is doing, that means you're nailing kick drum patterns. When you're nailing kick drum patterns, that means you're nailing songs and you're feeling confident in playing the song correctly and in really laying down a groove. And if you're playing a lot of rock, that is critical. And so it's so cool how we can use jazz and bebop exercises to build the kick drum technique, coordination, and precision and control and speed that we need to ultimately nail rock stuff. So it doesn't matter if you don't like jazz. If you're a rock drummer and you're like, Steven, I don't want to do jazz stuff. Hey, that was me too in high school, but I'm so thankful that my teacher made me do this because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to play the busier rock stuff that I was quickly able to learn as a result. So I want that for you too. Stick with it, be patient, know that you can do this. So before you go, question for you. Do you actually need a new exercise to practice, or do you just need to slow down the one thing you're already practicing? So kind of playing devil's advocate here, maybe this exercise will help you a bunch, practicing it really slowly, because again, the point is not the exercise itself, it's how you're approaching it. And so maybe you've already got some good stuff you're practicing very slowly, and maybe all that you need to do is slow down that one thing you're already practicing. Maybe you're sitting there and you're working on rock grooves that are like this. In a way, that's the rock equivalent. I think you'll gain more from doing the jazz thing just because it's harder. But maybe a simplified rock equivalent of this sort of exercise is something like. So anyways, maybe you're working on something like that right now. And so maybe you stick with that, and maybe you just need to slow it down. Maybe that's all your focus needs to be. You just need to change the mindset here. Be more patient and say, all right, I'm going to go really slow with this. So just food for thought. I want you thinking about that. Maybe this exercise today is the one for you, or maybe you just need to shift your mindset to practicing more slowly using a lot of that slow repetition in your practicing. Either way, you can do this. You can make some progress. Hey, before you go, be sure to grab that 3-part daily practice guide, 30-minute a day practice routine. If you're a busy drummer, you don't have a lot of time, and you also feel like you don't know what to practice, that guide is for you. Be sure to grab that so that you grow faster, so you have more fun in your practice sessions, and you know there's no holes, and you learn all the stuff you need to learn so that you can ultimately master the drums. So go grab that. I will see you on the next video. I hope this has been super helpful to you. As always, stay non-glamorous and know that you can do this.